The tragedy of Azerbaijan Airlines. Flight 8243, what really happened? On December 25, 2024, a routine flight became the center of one of the most horrifying aviation disasters of the decade. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243, an Embraer 190 aircraft, was carrying 67 passengers and crew members. Tragically, 38 people perished in this disaster, leaving the world grappling with questions. How did this happen? And could it have been prevented? This flight began like any other. Departing from Baku, Azerbaijan, Flight 8243 was scheduled to land in Grozny, Russia. But as the plane approached Grozny, the situation started to change. Dense fog enveloped the destination airport, reducing visibility to dangerous levels. The pilots, well-trained for challenging conditions, decided to divert the flight to their alternative destination, Makhachkala, Dagestan. But fate seemed to have other plans. Severe weather conditions at Makhachkala made landing there impossible. The pilots were forced to divert once again, this time to Aktau, Kazakhstan, an airport further from their intended route. Despite the challenges, the situation appeared manageable, until it wasn't. While cruising over the Caspian Sea, something went terribly wrong. The crew reported a failure in the aircraft's control system and issued a distress signal. Survivor testimonies later described hearing loud bangs and experiencing sudden decompression in the cabin. It was as though the aircraft had been struck by a massive external force, sending it into chaos. Multiple attempts were made to land at Aktau International Airport, but each approach was more erratic than the last. Ground witnesses described seeing the plane struggling to stabilize before ultimately crashing on its third attempt. The impact was devastating. The aircraft broke apart, igniting a massive fire that engulfed the front section of the plane. Out of the 67 people on board, 38 lost their lives, including both pilots. The remaining 29 survivors, including 2 children, were rushed to local hospitals, many with critical injuries. What caused this tragedy? Initial theories included mechanical failure or pilot error, common culprits in aviation accidents. But as the investigation unfolded, new evidence emerged that hinted at something far more sinister. Survivor accounts of explosions before the crash and physical evidence from the wreckage pointed to a horrifying possibility. The aircraft may have been struck by a missile or shrapnel from one. This theory quickly gained traction when investigators examined the fuselage and found shrapnel damage consistent with an external explosion. Could it be that Flight 8243 had been an unintended casualty of military activity in the region? To understand how this could happen, we need to examine the complex geopolitical landscape of the area. The Caspian Sea region, where the plane crashed, is a zone of significant military activity. Russia, deeply engaged in its conflict with Ukraine, had deployed extensive anti-aircraft systems to intercept potential aerial threats like drones. These systems, while highly advanced, are not immune to human error. Could a miscalculation have led to a civilian airliner being targeted? If this scenario sounds familiar, it's because history has seen similar tragedies. In 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17 was shot down over eastern Ukraine by a surface-to-air missile, killing all 298 people aboard. That incident shocked the world and raised serious questions about the safety of civilian flights in conflict zones. Could the same mistake have occurred with Flight 8243? Now, before we continue unraveling this tragic event, we'd like to take a moment to ask for your support. If you're finding this story insightful and want to stay updated on aviation, technology, and global events, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your subscription helps us continue to bring you in-depth stories like this one. Thank you for being part of our community. Returning to the events of Flight 8243, Russian authorities initially dismissed the missile theory. They suggested that the crash could have been caused by a bird strike or mechanical failure. However, these explanations quickly lost credibility as evidence mounted. The patterns of damage on the aircraft's fuselage were not consistent with bird strikes, and survivor testimonies about loud explosions before the crash couldn't be ignored. Azerbaijani officials have since demanded accountability, urging Russia to provide a clear and transparent explanation. The investigation into this disaster has drawn international attention. Experts from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and even Embraer, the aircraft manufacturer, are working together to uncover the truth. While mechanical failure hasn't been completely ruled out, the evidence supporting the missile strike theory is compelling. Survivors' harrowing accounts and the physical damage to the plane both suggest that this was no ordinary accident. The crash of Flight 8243 also highlights the broader risks of flying near active military zones. Airspace over regions like the Caspian Sea is inherently dangerous during times of conflict. Civilian aircraft, designed for passenger safety, are not equipped to handle the threats posed by military-grade weapons. Despite international agreements designed to protect commercial flights, tragedies like this continue to occur. For the families of the victims, the pain is unimaginable. Among those who perished were parents, children, and loved ones, each with their own stories, dreams, and futures.
20'de
The survivors,
gelmeye yarım saat
while
mola
fortunate to be
havaya
alive,
kalkana
face a
kadar
long road to recovery.
strateji
Physical injuries heal with time, but the emotional scars of that day will remain forever. This disaster is a stark reminder of the human cost of geopolitical tensions. The families of Flight 8243's victims deserve answers, not just to understand what happened, but to ensure that this kind of tragedy doesn't happen again. Transparency and accountability are not optional. They are essential. As we wait for the final report from investigators, the aviation industry faces tough questions. How can we better protect civilian flights in conflict zones? What technologies and protocols can be implemented to prevent similar disasters? Every aviation tragedy teaches us something new, and it is the industry's responsibility to learn and evolve. History shows that these lessons, while born of loss, can lead to meaningful change. After previous aviation incidents, the introduction of improved safety protocols, better pilot training, and advanced technologies have made flying one of the safest forms of travel. While no changes can bring back the lives lost on Flight 8243, they can serve as a legacy that ensures their deaths were not in vain. Flight 8243's story is one of unimaginable loss, unanswered questions, and the urgent need for change. It is also a sobering reminder of the risks that civilian flights face in a world where military conflicts spill into shared airspace. As the investigation continues, the global aviation community must come together to demand accountability, prioritize safety, and prevent future tragedies. Thank you for joining us as we explored this heartbreaking event. If you found this story compelling and want to help us raise awareness about issues like this, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. By staying informed and engaged, we can honor the victims and advocate for safer skies.